what you say.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more.
Hi, I'm Rick Aaliyah. Welcome to our video series, Mike Kelly Must Go, where we present the case that Mike Kelly, U.S. Congressman from Pennsylvania's 16th District, should not be reelected in November. Remember when we first heard this? That's from June 2018, as the cruelty of the Trump administration was on full display in its no-tolerance policy that caused children to be separated from their parents at the Mexican border. As a nation, we were horrified. Who would do this to innocent children? Well, it turns out Trump would do this, along with the help of his GOP enablers, including our Congressman, Mike Kelly. When we first learned of children being separated at the border, Kelly released a statement. In it, he said, "The sight of any child being separated from his or her parents is deeply troubling to me." Now, a bad toothache is deeply troubling. Being concerned as you drive along a dark stretch of road at night afraid you'll run out of gas, that's deeply troubling. Getting a poor performance review from your boss, that's deeply troubling. When our government does this to kids, this is beyond deeply troubling. This is a moral abomination. Here are some other things Kelly had to say.
When dealing with the many facets of immigration and border control policy, numerous concerns must always be carefully weighed, including legal, economic, security, and humanitarian consequences.
No outrage, no indignation, only political talking points.
Responsibly debating this issue must begin with separating concrete facts from sensationalized rumors, half-truths, and falsehoods.
Sensationalized rumors, half-truths, and falsehoods. What's he talking about? Does he think these poor children are the figment of somebody's imagination? No demand for justice. No call of action to stop the pain of these innocent youngsters. Just callous, boilerplate ramblings.
I have a duty to craft policies in the best interest of the safety and prosperity of all Western Pennsylvanians, including wage security for our workers.
Safety and prosperity. Wage security. Kids are the victims of this unconscionable mental abuse, and he tries to justify his inactions by defaulting to GOP stereotypes of immigrants being a threat to Americans and taking their jobs.
For instances, when the child is verifiably not being exploited or facing any danger, I agree with President Trump that current policy should be changed to keep family units together.
This is a craven lie by Kelly. It was Trump's zero-tolerance policy that led to the separations. But Kelly desperately tries to spin it as if the president is saving the day instead of traumatizing kids, possibly for the rest of their lives. It was about a year later that the stories started coming out about the way these children were being treated. Remember?
They were filthy dirty. There was mucus on their shirts. The shirts were dirty. We saw breast milk on the shirts. There was food on the shirts and the pants as well. They told us that they were hungry. They told us that some of them had not showered or had not showered until the day or 2 days before we arrived. Many of them described that they only brushed their teeth once.
Is this Congressman Mike Kelly's America, where we hate immigrants so much that we punish them, intimidate them, and dehumanizing them? Even children, some of them infants? How can we hate them so much that we extend our abject cruelty and degradation to target even them, treating them worse than some of us treat our dogs?
The smell of sweat and soiled clothing filled the room. They had not been allowed to bathe or change since crossing the Rio Grande and turning themselves over to the officials. Sevier found that about 2/3 of the kids she examined had symptoms of respiratory infection. She found evidence of sleep deprivation, dehydration, and malnutrition too.
Whatever the cause, we know where it comes from, the darkest corners of the collective human soul. But it couldn't have resulted in the horrors that we're seeing at the border unless some conduit brought it all together and channeled it into a force hell-bent on satisfying the dream of every white nationalist, warming the soul of every racist, and playing to the irrational fear of every bigoted coward.
Outbreaks of scabies, shingles, and chickenpox were spreading among the hundreds of children who were being held in cramped cells, agents said. The stench of the children's dirty clothing was so strong that it spread to the agents' own clothing. People in town would scrunch their noses when they left work. The children cried constantly. One girl seemed likely enough to try to kill herself that the agents made her sleep on a cot in front of them so they could watch her as they were processing new arrivals.
The conduit, of course, is Donald Trump, the most corrupt, incompetent, unfit president in history. Trump didn't invent our hatred of immigrants, but he brought his own deep-seated and open racism to the most powerful office in the land. He gave us permission to hate and encouraged us to fear. Then he moved an entire government toward an unconscionable level of cruelty that seems to exist as much as anything, simply for its own sake. But a conduit can't stand alone. It needs a source of power. For Trump, that power is a psychopathic Republican Party, willing to shove aside even the slightest essence of human decency in its quest for money, power, and the success of its own agenda. That party includes Congressman Mike Kelly.
We are trying to make sure we're making America great every day in every way.
Kelly's unflinching support of an immoral president and a corrupt administration has become his calling card. His constant pandering to Trump is an affirmation of his weakness, cowardice, and lack of character. He's what happens when you put an expensive suit on a corpse. It might look good from the outside, but it's dead on the inside.
You may get discouraged by what you hear on the TV or radio or something you read in the newspaper. Look to the bright side. There is an awful lot of good going on right now.
A lot of good for who? Is this making America great again every day in every way? Is abusing and terrorizing innocent children now an acceptable trade-off for whether Trump and Kelly see as the end game of this atrocity? Is this barbarism part of Kelly's faith? Is this what he means when he professes to be pro-life? Is this his grand bargain? For what? Power, money, fame, a seat in Congress?
Sevier could read the fear in their faces, but they were perfectly submissive to her authority. I can only explain it by trauma because this is such an unusual behavior, she said. Sevier had brought along Mickey Mouse toys to break the ice, and the kids seemed to enjoy playing with them, yet none resisted, she said, when she took them away at the end of the exam. At some point, Sevier mused, "You're broken, and you stop fighting."
Trump, with Kelly's support, may think it's fun to break the rule of children, but in November it will be men and women going to the polls. Men and women who are sick of the Trump-Kelly vision of America, where the goal is cruelness and the victims are those least able to defend themselves. Hate and fear. Those are the foundations of this national disgrace of which our Congressman Mike Kelly is a willful supporter. This dark stain on our history is happening right before our eyes. All we have to do is open them. Then we have to vote. Please go to our website, www.mikekellymustgo.com, to see other videos and read in detail about the case against Mike Kelly. And please go to the polls in November 3rd. Vote, because this is the most important election of our lifetime. Thanks for watching.
Papa. Kami tiap walau